Welcome to StudyIQ. My name is Bhuvan Apurvajha and this is the Editorial Edge. Firstly, can you just very quickly let me know if you can see and hear me all right so that we may begin. Good morning, Deepak, Mandeep, Tarun. Good morning, guys. Welcome. Welcome. We are in fact meeting after a brief hiatus. We didn't have a class on Saturday. I was a bit unwell. I'm still in the process of recovering, but that shall not keep me from introducing to you three topics, three very important bills that were taken up and have been passed. Two of them have been passed by the House, both the components of the House, Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha. All right. So we'll take a look at the three articles, the three bills. And why is this important? Because again, the monsoon session of the House is it's in progress right now. And so what you'll find is that even in this week, you'll have, say, the no confidence motion being taken up. So it should remain a major part of your focus area, Whenever the House is in session, you'll find important bills getting passed. So as UPSC aspirants, maybe the question may not be directly related to the bill, but then say a component of the bill, what does it seek to address? What's the sector that it is looking to address? The questions may come from there, okay? So for example, in today's topic, you'll have the mines and the offshore mining, in fact, the Offshore Areas Minerals Amendment Bill. So a question from here comes from a range of territories, okay? You're looking at, say, a question on EEZ coming up, the Exclusive Economic Zone, or the governance of, say, non-exclusive economic zones of the marine area, Who allots that, say, particular policy making? Okay, you are also looking at questions coming from, say, India's position in making sure atomic minerals and non-atomic minerals, what's the differentiation? Okay, when you talk about atomic minerals, you will also have to talk about the agencies that deal with atomic minerals. So again, do you realize a particular bill has a host of other tangents? We'll start taking an extensive look at each of them. Okay. Okay, thanks for letting me know, Deepak. Pranjul, Pratik, good morning, guys. All right, so let's begin. This is my Telegram channel, by the way. I'd go ahead and join this, please, because I'll be sharing the PDF of all the three articles that we do here in my Telegram channel around noon. All right. Okay, let's get started. So again, this is my Instagram, and the answers are to be sent here. I am still in the process of finishing the answers. I think a majority has been done. Just one or two are left. That will be done today. Okay, so we'll take a look at the questions from the last class first. And so in the last class, we took a deep dive in about vultures in India. So one is the vulture conservation breeding centers. All right, we discussed about them, vulture conservation and breeding centers in India. So you find that there are many of them. We'll just take a look at the two of them here. Jatayu VCBC is in Bir Shikargarh Wildlife Sanctuary, which is again in Haryana. And this is also known as the Pinjore VCBC, Vulture Conservation and Breeding Center. Okay. Now you will find the name Jatayu being used frequently for, say, vulture conservation and breeding centers. There is one in Maharajganj district of UP also. Okay. In Maharajganj. That is also known as Jatayu. Okay. So again, this will be a common name because again, it's a mythical creature that is associated with our culture. So you find that rationale there. So this is again correctly matched. Whereas Raja Bhat Khawa, this is in West Bengal again. In northern Bengal, you find the Raja Bhat Khawa, Vulture Conservation and Breeding Center, which is right at the edge of the Buxa Tiger Reserve. Okay, so in terms of, say, that particular area around the Chicken's Neck, as we know it in international relations, there are many wildlife sanctuaries and national parks. Make sure that you know about them, starting from, say, Senchal Wildlife Sanctuary, the Mahananda Wildlife Sanctuary, Jaldapada Wildlife Sanctuary, Gorumara Wildlife Sanctuary, thereafter Buxa Tiger Reserve. Okay. Many important rivers flow through that area. You have first rail line that will connect Sikkim to the rest of India. That is also happening through that particular area. Okay, so a lot of articles are written on that particular area. So make sure that it remains a focus area in your map preparation also. Okay, so both are correctly matched here. All right, we'll go forward. Oriental backed vulture, long-billed, slender-billed, red-head. These four are critically endangered. Whereas this one is, I think, near threatened. All right. This is again found in the United States and Americas, in fact. All right. This is not native to India, which is why you call it as a New World vulture, whereas our ones are called Old World vultures. All right. So which of the above are not found in India except 6? All of the above are found in India. 6 is not found in India, which is the turkey vulture. Okay. Because the turkey vulture, as I told you, is a New World vulture. All right. Now you must be knowing the difference between New World and Old World by now. We have done this, say, for several different species, including monkeys. Okay, we have done this for vultures also. So New World again related to Americas, all right, whereas the Old World related to Europe, Africa, and Asia. All right, that's the categorization. That's how you'll remember it. Good morning, Arka. I'm okay. I'm recovering. How are you? Welcome, welcome. Good that you guys are joining. All right. This was a question again that is a previous year question, no, guys? This is again a UPSC previous year question. Vultures, which used to be very common in the Indian countryside some years ago, are rarely seen nowadays. What is the reason behind this? Is it the destruction of their nesting sites, drug use, scarcity of food, or a fatal disease? Well, it's essentially to do with this, the problem of diclofenac, which we took an extensive look at in the last class. Remember, we discussed diclofenac and the substitutes that came up for diclofenac. Well, those also are quite harmful, injurious to the vultures. Pratik, the environment class is this evening, 9 p.m. We will meet. I'll be telling you about the scope of the lecture also. I think you will find the video, the link already having been created. So I hope many of you join me this evening. We will first start with, again, a brief revision of biomes and like you had mentioned, Pratik, you had a bit of trouble in biomes and niche. So we'll start from there, first address that, and then look at the rest of the class. Okay, that will happen this evening at 9 p.m. The Aranya series. All right. So here the answer is B. Okay, let's go forward. Now this is again UPSC PYQ. Now I found many of you answering multiple answers for this. Well, this was of those times when it was a simple, straightforward question. Okay. So in terms of microbeads, these are again the nanoplastics that you are looking at. All right. And straight away the answer here is 1, A. Okay, they are considered harmful to the marine ecosystems. Thereafter, say skin cancer, all of that. Well, those are again, it was, this question came at a time when I don't think the research on this topic was that extensive. Okay, and eventually skin cancer in children is not just the doing of nanoplastics. You're also looking at other health hazards in other age groups. Okay, so based on that, again, A is the finest answer that you can get here. All right, let's go forward. Project Replan, I have told you that it's a part of the way forward whenever you write for, say, plastic waste management in India, including, say, the plastic waste management rules, okay, which we discussed in the last class also, the plastic waste management rules of 2021 and 2022, I think 22 it was, okay. Along with that, you have Project Replan. So your mains answer, if you are writing this here, will make sure that you include these 2 points, all right. So first one is obviously well known to us. Second one, the Project Replan is essentially focused on making sure that you give sustainable alternatives for plastic. Remember in the last class we had discussed that as a consumer, our choices are limited. Plus the price point at which the substitute comes is also not feasible enough. A plastic bag comes free or at 1 rupee, whereas say the alternative that you are looking at comes for say 5 rupees. As a consumer, I'm not going to be very keen to get it. Okay, maybe the environmentally conscious only will. So the Project Replan looks to go ahead and address that particular gap there, that vacuum, okay. So sustainable alternative to plastics is planned. It has been launched by the Khadi Village and Industries Commission. So you can understand that the sustainable product that they're looking at will probably be Khadi waste, okay. And the KVIC does not report to the Ministry of Textiles. In fact, it reports to the medium, small and micro enterprises, MSME, okay. So the correct options here are 1 and 2, right? Let's look at the last one here. Okay, F. Single-use plastics is banned in all states and UTs of India, correct? In 2022, this was announced, okay, as to make sure that India is plastic waste free, all right? Extended producer responsibility is inherent in a circular economy, which means it's a part, an undeniable part of circular economy is extended producer responsibility, where a producer is responsible for the collection and the management, which includes recycling after the product has, say, been used by the consumer, right? So this is absolutely correct. Extended producer responsibility is non-enforceable is in fact incorrect. You have special enforcement teams, okay, which have been launched by states, including enforcement teams of the union government also. All right. So they take a look at the enforcing bit. It's completely under the ambit of the state government with coordination from the central government. All right. So this is again incorrect. So the correct options here again 1 and 2. All right. Let's go forward. This question again, Suhas Yathiraj, I had told you, IAS, ex-DC Gautam Buddha Nagar. I'm not aware of his present posting. Okay. He plays badminton. In fact, he's one of the top 5 ranked, I believe, badminton players, Paralympic para badminton players in India. Okay. Similarly, Devendra Jhajaria, well-known name. He has been given several awards, right from, say, the Khel, I don't think the Khel Ratna, but the Arjuna Award has been given to him. He's also received Padma Award. So, Devendra Jhajaria is for javelin. Deepa Malik, again, is not just for shot put, by the way. She is also brilliant in javelin, plus you're looking at motor sports, a thoroughly talented individual. Again, represented India at the top level. Won medals, accolades, you name it, she's done it. Okay. So again, a para-athlete of extreme national importance for us. Okay. And Nikhat Zareen is not with swimming, by the way. Nikhat Zareen is with boxing. Okay. One of, again, the top ranked boxers in the whole world. So the incorrect option here is only 4. All right. Make sure that you know your sports persons, guys. Have a genuine interest in sports. Pradeep, I'm recovering. Thanks for asking. Good morning. Asha, good morning. Welcome. So Arjuna Award is not the highest sporting award, by the way. You must know it by now. It's the second highest sporting award. The highest is Major Dhyan Chand Khel Ratna Award, which was first known as Rajiv Gandhi Khel Ratna Award. Then the name was altered to make it Major Dhyan Chand Khel Ratna Award. They are decided by not the Ministry of Home Affairs, but by the Ministry of Sports and Youth Affairs. Okay. The Ministry of Home Affairs, in fact, is the coordinating agency for your Padma Awards. All right. Your People's Padma that is given. Yes. So you had that old woman, no? I think she was, what was her name? Setu, the one who was responsible for the forests in Karnataka. All of those recommendations are sent by UNI. Ministry of Home Affairs goes ahead, forms a committee, analyzes them, and thereafter the names are recommended to the President's office, and then the President's office hands out the invitations, they come, the Padma Awards are bestowed to them in the Darbar Hall of Rashtrapati Bhavan. Okay. Similarly, you have, say, the defense investiture ceremonies, Ati Vishisht Seva Medal, Param Vishisht Seva Medal, all of these high awards for the military officers. For that, the coordinating agency is obviously Ministry of Defense. Okay, so know the coordinating agencies for each award. Okay, who is responsible? So this is incorrect again. Dronacharya Award is the highest sporting award for coaches, mentors is absolutely correct. The incorrect options here being 1 and 2. Yes? 1 and 2 are the incorrect options. So these are my star individuals. Individuals who have answered correctly. Some of them may be 1 or 2 incorrect. Idhar udhar chalta hai. ठीक है. But then I'm happy with the commitment, the progress made by several individuals, not just in terms of, say, MCQs, but also what they're writing in the answers. Exceptional improvement. I'm really happy to see that. And for Sangram and Devanand, thanks for your comments, by the way. Thank you. I really appreciate it. You made my day. But I would have also liked it had you answered the questions for me. So please, I'd request you, for the rest of you also, go ahead and answer these. Okay. So this begins this evening, 9 p.m. We go on with the third lecture of the Aranya series, like I told you, biomes, niche, and thereafter we'll look at, say, the functions of an ecosystem. We'll understand the different relationships, the different isms, commensalism, mutualism, all of that will be taken care of, and an extensive thrust on UPSC questions plus MCQs. Okay, this goes live at 9 p.m. Please do join for that. All right, let's look at the first topic for the day, the Inter-Services Organizational Bill. Now, just a few weeks ago, okay, I forget the date, but we had done an extensive class on Theatre Command Plan of the Government of India. Okay, that time obviously it was not announced, but I had thought it fit that we should go ahead and discuss Theatre Command Plan when it comes to the Armed Forces of India. Remember, if the regular watchers will remember this. Okay, so now the Theatre Command Plan, if you look at it as a story that began with the creation of the Chief of Defence Staff, CDS, the late General Bipin Rawat being the first occupant of that position. Okay, so that creation of that post essentially indicated that now you are looking towards a uniform administration. that the Army, Navy, Air Force will work together to create synergy. That was the first step. Thereafter is the next step that has happened now. After you have created a post, now that you're looking to create synergy in the ground level, okay, CDS sits in New Delhi. What happens to the guy who's say functioning in Tawang or in say Kargil sector or wherever? So how do you create things change on the ground? This bill is to create to that effect. Okay. Now you are looking at the actual operational way as to how command and control of the Indian armed forces will function. All right. So let's look at this. The Lok Sabha has passed this. Now what does the bill propose to do? It proposes to bring theatre command plan as the operating structure. This is the macro overview, guys. Okay. The bill does not state this, but then this is the macro point of this bill. All right. And to achieve this macro point, what does this bill do? This basically does that you have now a single commander for a specific geographical region. Right? So what does theatre command mean essentially? I had told you that now you are going to have say a particular area which will have synergy between all the three armed forces. A common person will be in charge of say all the officers. Up until now what would happen? Say an army major would report to say an army colonel. Okay. So similar rank and structure would be followed. Each would be reporting to his or her senior in say the rank of the next one in the armed forces, the similar structure. Say Indian Navy officer will report to an Indian Navy officer. Now you are looking at a situation where an Indian Navy officer might well have a senior who is a brigadier. Okay. This is the whole point of this bill. That since you are going to have theatre command, now you need to have say uniformity in administration across the three services. That is the whole point of this. Okay. So single commander for a specific geographical region. That person is going to be called either the commander-in-chief or the officer in command of the ISO, the Inter-Services Organization. Okay. So that identity of say Army, Navy or Air Force in terms of say an operating structure remains, but now the role changes to an Inter-Services Organization, which means you're looking at say all these converging thoughts, converging resources, all of them coming together. Okay. Up until now, say the Navy would be functioning with its own mandate, its own silo, its own targets. The Air Force will be functioning with its own targets. Army, again, its own targets. So in terms of say having a joint operation or having to face say the asymmetric warfare, it is called. Okay. A very interesting term. Take a look at this. Okay. What is the point of this? You are looking at combating asymmetric warfare. Okay, that it's not going to be at the end of the day just say simple conventional warfare where army is fighting army or navy is fighting navy. That thing is a thing of the past now. You are looking at newer forms of threat emerging, like say cyber threats are emerging now. Okay, so you need to have uniform control and command structure for all sections of the Indian Armed Forces. All right, so let's go forward and have a look now. This is from the PIB, by the way. Okay, I've picked it up from PIB. All the other articles, including Hindu, Express, wherever you read this about this, no, what they have done is they have rehashed the PIB article. Okay, so the PIB is obviously the horse's mouth, so we'll stick to the PIB. So the bill proposes to be just as an enabling act. It essentially does not change, they say the Army Act or the Navy Act or the Air Force Act, which were up until now the act under which each of these organizations would operate. Okay, so that is not being amended. Those acts remain. All this act does is to create synergy between the three acts, like tie them in a particular string. All right. Good morning, Bulbul. Welcome, guys. Welcome. Okay. So this is just an enabling act. It does not propose any change to any of the existing acts, which includes the Army Act, the Navy Act, and the Air Force Act. Okay. So if the question asks you that this amends, suppose the MCQ asks you whether the ISO Act now, in fact, it's going to get passed. The ISO Act changes or amends the Navy Act or Army Act. No, it doesn't. All it does is just create synergy between them. Okay. How it does is, what's the aim here? Deepening integration, creating synergy. All three arms of the Indian Armed Forces working together. Clear? So now, like I told you, they are functioning under these individual acts. The Army functions against the Army Act 1950, Navy Act 1957, Air Force Act 1950. Just have a brief idea of the year, okay? That the Navy came the last, 1957. Clear? So the ISO bill shall be applicable to all personnel of the regular Army, Navy, Air Force. Okay? As notified by the central government who are now serving. What does it mean? That say it just does not mean that it's going to get limited to Army, Air Force, Navy. Okay? Eventually, you are going to have, say, other stakeholders also come to this. Now, you might ask me, who are the other stakeholders? One such stakeholder is, say, the Coast Guard. Okay? When you talk about the territorial waters of India, you have a lot of bodies that operate there. You have the local police that has its own, say, marine wing attached. BSF has a naval wing attached to it. Okay? You have the Indian Navy, obviously. You also have the Coast Guard. All functioning in the similar realm, but with different goals. What they are eventually going to do is, all of these local ecosystems that I'm talking about, they will have all these multiple stakeholders come together. So you're going to have an idea that the ICG, the Indian Coast Guard, eventually becoming a part of this. Because for effective integration, all of them need to come together. No? What would be the benefit, Pratik? The benefit is, firstly, you are looking at the thought process converging. No? In terms of a crisis, like I told you, if all the three wings are thinking and operating in three different directions, the chances of success are limited straight away. Okay? Plus, like I told you about, say, asymmetric warfare. That warfare is no more conventional. So your approach also needs to be integrated. That the left hand should know what the right hand is doing. Okay. Plus, again, you're looking at the financial viewpoint. All the common resources being pulled together, common requirements, common budgeting. Do you realize that? So again, an Indian Army personnel knowing about the techniques of the Indian Navy. So cross-learning happening. Up until now, an Indian Army personnel may never would have got the opportunity to understand in detail, say, about how a submarine functions or what are the various facets attached to it. Or how do you go ahead, what are the naval maneuverings? Like the army has battle tactics, the naval force also has its maneuverings. So all of this information, cross-linking needs to be done, just like you guys do interlinking when it comes to learning to a topic. Well, the army needs to do it. They're doing it in the practical world. No? That is obvious benefit. Okay. So the existing inter-services organizations will be deemed to have been constructed. Now you already know that we have tri-services organizations, in fact a tri-services basis in Andaman and Nicobar. You must be aware of that. Okay. So similarly you have, obviously the ANN command is there, the Defence Space Agency and the NDA. Alright. These are the tri-services organizations where there are already participation, or there is already participation of all the three wings of the Indian Armed Forces. Okay. So they are already deemed to have been created. Now, the next process is announcement of the theatre commands. India ke ab kitne theatre command honge? 3, 4, 5, 6, different articles will tell you different numbers right now because it is all floating in the air. Okay. The formal announcement for that, I think, will be coming soon on the August 15th speech by the Prime Minister from the Red Fort. I think he'll announce it that day. Okay. So we'll keep an eye out for that because the passing of this bill eventually is just, confirmation of what the announcement is going to be. Okay. So now who are the officers eligible to be appointed as the commander-in-chief or the officer-in-command? Now please understand, in the armed forces, there is a difference between flag officers versus other officers. Alright. You must have seen, no? A particular brigadier's car goes by and you see a flag right at the right side of the gadi. Yes? Or you might have seen, say, certain army vehicles, officer vehicles, not having any flag. Say the CO's vehicle has just a board in front of it just written CO. Have you seen that, guys, in your own town? If you have ever seen an army vehicle, you'll know. And black ambassador, a shiny ambassador will go, but it will have a flag, something like this. Whereas, say, CO's gypsy is going, it will just have a board written on it in red, CO. Yes? So there's the difference there. Only above a certain rank, only are you eligible to put flag in your car. Okay, it's a privilege extended to you by the organization after having achieved a certain seniority grade. Not all officers are eligible. Okay, so flag officers, firstly, you need to understand. The other officers are the general officers. Say CO does not have the power to use a flag. It's like red light for when you had red beacons for government officials. No, ideally, who is eligible for them now has been defined. But earlier you found the road RTO also having a lal batti, or some fisheries inspector also using lal batti. Do you realize? Because the guidelines were so loose, fast and loose. The army does not have. It has clear guidelines. If this is your rank, this is what you are eligible for, right? So now the who are eligible to be appointed as the commander-in-chief, the general officer of the regular army above the rank of brigadier, okay? Flag officer of the navy, rank of admiral of the fleet, admiral, vice admiral or rear admiral. Please have a basic idea of the ranks, okay? Start from say the Indian Army, Indian Air Force, Indian Navy, and go through and have a look at how the career progression happens, so that you can draw equivalent कि अच्छा आर्मी का ब्रिगेडियर, नेवी का क्या है और एयरफोर्स का क्या है. मेक श्योर दैट यू नो दैट गाइज. ओके. सत्यनारायण मुखिया, गुड मॉर्निंग, वेलकम. ओके. So an officer of the Air Force above the rank of group captain. These are the eligible officers to become the officer in commanding, under which will be all the other officers of say the Indian Army, Navy, Air Force. Now what is this guy going to do eventually? Okay, you have created this particular post. Who is going to do, what is he going to do now? What he or she going to do? Let's look at it. So this particular person is responsible for the command, control and discipline of all the particular personnel working under him. Alright, like I told you, expect the theatre command soon. And so this answers a question, Pratik, by the way. Okay, have a look at this. These are the very facts that I told you. Pratik, to take note of this. Alright. So now what does this guy do? Disciplinary and administrative powers of all individuals of all wings who are attached to that ISO, that inter-services organization, well, that person is responsible. What happens now? Imagine now, from the practical perspective. In government services, you have, say, APARs. First, understand from the what changes for the person. All of the rest can be understood. The bigger concepts, all that financial pooling resources, so obviously we'll understand. But what changes for the person? Say if you are an officer of the Indian Army, up until now you are reporting to a brigadier. A colonel. Okay. Now tomorrow you get attached to say ISO number 1 announced somewhere. So tomorrow suddenly you find that a group captain is now your immediate boss. So which means that he is going to be responsible for your annual confidential report, on the basis of which you will get promoted or not promoted, because you know that in the Indian Armed Forces, career progression is assured only to a certain limit. Not every officer gets to become the CEO, or not every officer gets to become, say, CEO you can become till brigadier. After that, it is based on, say, competency. So this APAR is going to be handled by that immediate officer, right? So that changes for the person now. So the behavior change happens. Now you are much more interested in learning about the other person's ways and methods, including the service that the person comes from. Correct? Okay. Rajan, good morning, welcome. Okay. So you are doing this APA, this changes for the person, and for the larger context, well, this is the answer. Okay. Do make sure that you tune for this, guys. Isko dhyan dena, August 15th speech. So many policy measures that you will read about in the coming days. All of these op-eds, editorials. If you just care enough to read the transcript of the speech, listening to the speech might get tedious. So after the speech is over, PIB on its website, it releases the whole transcript of the speech. Okay, in all languages, by the way, not just in Hindi and English, all languages. Make sure that you get it down, download it and read it. Why? I'll tell you, all the policy measures that are going to come in the next 6 months, which are going to be a part of your answers and MCQs, can eventually be traced back to that 15 August speech. Okay, so make sure that you follow it very closely. Alright, so that was the ISO bill. Okay, you are looking at this creation of this unified structure where all officers will work together. There will be one commander-in-chief who will be responsible for all the disciplinary proceedings within administrative and disciplinary proceedings within his subordinates. Okay, answer this question for me now. Which of the following sets of the Indian Armed Forces may be considered to be equal in rank and capacity? Okay. Major General, Admiral, Air Vice Marshal, Major Commander, Squadron Leader, Brigadier, Rear Admiral, Group Captain, General, Admiral, Air Chief Marshal. Okay. Again, not a very easy question. So go ahead and have a look at the entire rank of how a particular officer would progress in the Indian Armed Forces. All three wings. Have a look. We will discuss this and I'll give you a shortcut to remember this tomorrow. Okay? But have a look in your own capacity. Do 5 minutes of research. It's important that you know the different ranks. Next, all officers of the Indian Armed Forces use rank flags. The Indian Coast Guard operates under the Ministry of Defence. BSF and ITBP operate under Ministry of Home Affairs. The Field Marshal rank has only been awarded to Sam Manekshaw till date. Which of the above are correct? You will let me know. This is answer B for you. Make sure that you leave all the answers for me in a tabular format. It's easier for me to collate. Okay. Next. Which of the above are eligible to be officer in command of the proposed inter-services organization under this bill? Okay. Brigadier, Rear Admiral, Group Captain or Major. Who becomes that boss under whom you have all the officers who work? You know, 3 ranks I have told you in the slide. Go and identify them. Make sure that you know about them. Alright? Okay. So that completes the first topic. If you have any questions, kindly shoot them for me in the comment box. I'll be happy to address them now. And meanwhile, on the 11th, we have this particular batch starting. Okay. This is again a morning batch, by the way. Okay. 8 a.m. is when this class happens. Okay. We already have 2 batches running to capacity, in fact. This is the next one that is coming up. Make sure that you join this if you are looking at UPSC 2024 from a serious perspective. Okay. The time would be now to join and straight away get into it. Like, you should be at least spending close to 48 hours a week, 45 to 48 hours a week. Okay. If you're not doing that much work in a week, you're not preparing enough. And that is the benchmark. I'll tell you, even if you go and say any sarkari naukri also or any good naukri, no. You're looking at minimum this hours of commitment throughout a week. So as students, if you're not putting in this much hours a week, you're nowhere in the professional graph. You're just not ready for the job market. Okay. So you firstly go ahead, attempt putting in these many hours a week for a serious candidate, a full-time candidate. Okay. So again, if 45 hours per week is beyond your capacity right now, that you're unable to sit for long hours, forget long hours. If you're unable to concentrate for 1 hour, that's a problem. Okay. So if again, guidance is what you need, strategy is what you need, some focus is what you need, I'd suggest go ahead and join this course and use this code, BALIFE, because then you get allotted to my batch. So I remain in direct touch with you. And then we figure out, you know, what's the best strategy for you? Because not every strategy fits every student. Someone likes to study in the morning, someone likes to study in the evening. So again, that's completely handheld holding and customized for each student, by the way. Okay. All right. कोई question नहीं है क्या आप लोगों को? कोई सवाल वाल नहीं है, बता दो. Then we'll do this digital bill, data protection. Any questions, guys? All right, let's go. Digital Personal Data Protection Bill, Justice Sri Krishna Committee was the one that recommended its forming. So make sure that you know the committee first. BN Sri Krishna Committee 2017, which was the first one that went ahead and said you should have a comprehensive data protection strategy in place. What are you doing? 140 crore people, so much of internet proliferation happening right now. How are you going to protect citizens' data? Okay. So this was the first committee that gave its recommendation. Now what you also need to realize is that most of these committees across countries, okay, not just India, many countries across the world look towards one particular document, and that document is considered to be the gold standard of data protection regulation in the world right now. Okay. Oh really, Satyanathan? Are you one? Good. Good. I'm happy to see this. Good. Our country needs good officers. In fact, one of the major problems, Satyanathan, I'll tell you is, we have major shortages of officers in both Indian Armed Forces and Indian Civil Services. So a lot of good souls have to enter. You know, it's the right time to enter, in fact. Because again, you're not, that old process of Babudam is gone, by the way. This will change. That whole old concept of civil services is going to change. You will see in the coming days. Eventually, you are going to become enablers now. No more the central focus of anything. You will see. We are moving, that mindset shift is happening. We'll talk about it some other day. All right. So, BN Sri Krishna Committee, the gold standard, by the way, I am referring to is the GDPR. The General Data Protection Rules, which was introduced and brought forward by the European Union. This is considered the gold standard. You can consider it like the Magna Carta of internet regulation, digital regulation, data regulation, whichever way in India, across the whole world. Okay, it's one of those good examples as to how a law should be framed. Okay, so now what does this R bill do? It defines personal data and it defines sensitive data. Okay, personal data, all of these. Sensitive data, your health data. All right, say your private data. All right, you have these smart watches and all of that. Smart homes have come up now. Most of the apps will be tracking your particular user behavior and then getting it into a sort of a metadata. Okay, so you talk about metadata now. So all of these individual points of data, the sets of that are captured to get the general trends. Okay, that is called metadata. The data of data it is called. Okay, please understand, metadata access does not give access to a person's private information per se. You're not looking at, okay, someone is going to read your message or look at your photo. What they are going to identify is the keywords. What they are looking to get from there is a particular trends, consumer choices, preferences. However, metadata also gives away the whole story of the country or the community or the state, which is why it can either be positively used, say for effective implementation of policies. Okay, that you create a policy by understanding that data कि अच्छा यहाँ पे इस district में पानी की कमी है, that households do not have access to water, probably they are searching for say tankers or they are having some particular problems. So then you go ahead and address that. But then you can also use it to influence people. Two sides of the same coin. I'm going to give you both sides. You will form your opinion based on that. Okay. So two types of data, personal data and sensitive data. Now those organizations that collect and process personal data first have to obtain consent. Alright. And now the problem with consent here. So the European Union model, if we discuss consent, okay, the first thing it talks about is limited consent. What does it mean? Firstly, you have to go ahead and get mandatory consent from the user before you capture his or her data. Number one. Number two, your consent should only be related to that particular things that you are going to capture. Okay. At the same time, I as a user must have the opportunity to withdraw that consent anytime I want. समझ रहे हो? So you can give consent, you can withdraw consent. After you have withdrawn consent, the data that you have captured so far, say for 7 days I gave my consent to Twitter. Then I decided, nahi, it's not working out. Okay, I withdraw my consent. Twitter should go ahead and in those 7 days, whatever data that they have captured of me, they have to go ahead and delete it, process it totally. Forget it from my system. Right to be forgotten. Do you realize this? Okay. And that right to erasure is that whatever document or whatever data that you have captured from me, you remove it. Two rights that you have to understand. Right to erasure or forgotten, in fact, is the same thing. Right to erasure or right to be forgotten. That the data that you have captured should not be used after my consent has been withdrawn. So the GDPR, the European Union's GDPR, is the model law. Okay. But our version of the GDPR has been criticized on many accounts. We will discuss the criticisms also. Okay. So now you're looking at consent from the individual and you're looking at purpose limitation. Guys, make sure that you know these words. Okay. I have a very fleeting suspicion that these words are going to become firstly a common knowledge, common usage in the coming days. And so it's important for us to know the difference first. From the exam perspective, one thing that I would really seriously prepare for is the difference, say, between data localization and data sovereignty and say net neutrality. What do these individual terms mean? The exact meaning. That's where UPSC is going to test you. Okay. So make sure that you know the individual meanings of these. Purpose limitation, like I told you, if you are going to capture the data, make sure that when you obtain consent from the user, you tell him or her the exact purpose of why you are capturing this particular information. Okay. Thereafter, you're looking at data minimization. Same thing. that not a lot of the data, as less data required for the service to be provided has to be captured. You must have seen certain apps, I don't want to name them here, okay? But certain apps, when you just go ahead and install, they'll ask every permission. Like, why does this particular app need access to my, say, contacts? Why? Right? But then that's the purpose here. That companies should not go ahead and ask everything from you, every permission before they offer their services. That's not desired. Jitna kaam, utna dam. ठीक है? Accuracy, storage limitation again, that you should go ahead and be able to delete your data. Right to erasure is embedded in the GDPR rules of the European Union. All right. So you'll also have a data protection authority in India, a DPA, that will come up and address issues. Now the criticism. Okay. We need to take a look at the criticism from the mains perspective. Here is your fodder material. Okay. First exemption is to the government. Now the government has been given wide ranging exemptions from the point of view of, say, national security, public order, sovereignty. Okay. Now this has been, say, criticized by the activists, saying, well, why is the government exempt, firstly? Okay. But then from the governmental perspective, you have to realize that, well, eventually the responsibility of, say, everything lies with them, which means they should have the ability to go ahead and, say, negotiate this emerging technology, emerging field. And so there needs to be exemptions given to the government. Okay. So again, both sides, I'll tell you, you form your own opinion based on the facts. All right. My job is not to form your opinion, but give you analysis. All right. Government can also use anonymized or non-personal data for policy making. Like I told you, if you have a particular district, all the information of that can either be used for a positive method or a negative method, depending on which spectrum you are looking from. Right? The problem in China, in fact, in China it was observed that in certain, say, communities, they were able to pinpoint कि अच्छा एक घर ने Amazon से कितना सामान मंगाया है. What's the trend of, say, that particular product entering that house? What's the frequency? Okay, sugar comes once a month. So target them with, say, sugar ads. Do you realize that's how data works? Because eventually the data is going to be processed and coming back to you in a different form or manner. Do you realize? That's the whole point of it. Sorry. The bill lacks clear criteria and mechanism for a cross-border transfer. Let's look at data localization now, so that you understand this better. What is the cross-border transfer? So look at this first. The principle of data localization and data sovereignty. Let's have a brief look at it in 2 minutes. All right. What does data localization mean? It means the physical location of your data has to be within the territorial boundaries of the country. All right. Now, it does not mean that your data cannot be stored outside the country or transferred outside the country after that. No. What it means is that the first copy of your data should be within the territorial boundaries of India. Do you understand that? Now, what happens here? If it's within the territorial boundaries, before going out, okay, before it goes on a foreign trip. So, if there is going to be one copy within India, do you realize it adds to the operational cost of business entities that they're having to spend 2 times on a user than what they would have done once? Okay. That is the problem with data localization requirement of India. That one copy needs to be stored in India. Okay. That is the R version of data localization. What does data sovereignty mean now? That when you go ahead and put this particular data outside the territorial boundaries, now that it has gone in foreign land, okay. So data sovereignty says that India's law should be applicable on that particular data, that it is governed under Indian laws, that it is a sovereign aspect of India's mechanism. You know, that India's data, India's citizens' data is directly linked to India's sovereignty. That's what you're hinting at. That it is our resource, because eventually data is a resource now. Data is the new oil. You must have heard, no? New oil, right? So that's about it. It's about the control of the data, not just the physical location, but also the legal control of it. Okay. So the data sovereignty is about the legal aspect, the legal control of data. All right. So now let's look at it. One copy of personal data to be stored in India, which means higher operational costs. Okay. Now, rights extended to the citizens are again having exceptions. So, for example, right to erasure, the one that I told you about. In the Indian context, it is not absolute. The citizens may be deprived of right to erasure under certain circumstances. But when you factor in the GDPR of European Union, the gold standard, in fact, the General Data Protection Rules, it talks about complete right to erasure for any citizens. Okay. So our definition is slightly different. It's tweaked for our particular conditions. Again, there is no provision for compensation, whereas the same exists in the European Union. So your data breach happens. If you look at, say, the guidelines that are issued by European Union's GDPR rules, you will see that if a data breach happens, a company has 72 hours to first notify the user. Failure of which, again, first claim of compensation to udhar hi hai. That the company did not notify the user that, okay, such and such individual, your data has been breached. If the company does not do that, first compensation there. Forget the data breach compensation, wo to baad mein aayega. Do you realize, R1, there is no clear mechanism for compensation. What happens if my data gets breached? How am I going to be compensated? No clear mechanism there. All right. So this is the GDPR, by the way. Very important slide. Okay. I suggest having a look at this slide completely so that you understand what's the mindset behind GDPR. Okay. How it goes and tracks a personal data. What exactly is defined under personal data. Okay. Then you're also looking at the consent bit. See, data subjects must provide consent. Consent for children under 16 must come from the parents. Okay. Do you realize? And then they should have the ability to cancel their consent. कि एक बार हाँ ठीक है, if we saw the product, we don't like it. We are cancelling the consent now. Go ahead, erase our data, give everything back to us. That should be there. All right. The rights of users is there. Go ahead and have a look at it, okay? It's an extremely important, I have taken it from the European Union's website already. So have a look at it, please. All right. Let me know the answer to this, guys. This is an easy one, वैसे. Correct, Bulbul. That is right to be forgotten. Correct, correct. But then in the Indian case, it has mentioned that right to forgotten is not absolute. Like right to fair reporting of criminal conduct of an individual is not covered under getting forgotten. Right to fair reporting is essentially a part of the free press that we talk about. Okay. So you can't compromise on, say, privacy versus free press wins easily. Because again, your privacy is only subject to limitations. If you've gone ahead and done a criminal act, your acts are no more private. They become public in nature. Okay. So which of the following is related to GDPR? You know this. You'll answer this for me. Next. Pseudonymization. Pseudonymization. Have a look at this term, guys. UPSC loves new terms, especially that come in new and emerging tech. So you let me know. Pseudonymization का क्या मतलब है? Transforming data sets to protect privacy of user, deleting data sets to protect privacy of user, assigning pseudonyms to metadata, or none of the above. All right. F, data localization and data sovereignty. You will answer the question for me. What is the difference between data localization, data sovereignty, and metadata? You will identify the correct statements. Leave an answer for me in the comment box. All right. This is my Telegram channel. You will find the PDF of this particular lecture being uploaded around noon. And also today, this evening, the first information that I have given you for the Aranya series, this evening 9 p.m. Please do join me for that. It's a question-based whole series. Okay. The focus is on question solving, exam temperament. Okay. All right. Let's look at the last one. The last topic, the last bill, the Offshore Areas Minerals Amendment Bill. Now what has happened, I'll explain it to you in 2 minutes, then we'll look at the particular components. Up until now in India, all right, you have a bunch of minerals that were categorized as atomic minerals. All right, there were 12 of them. Okay, now what has happened is after this bill has been passed, now you find that 6 minerals have been non-classified as atomic minerals, which means they are no more atomic minerals. Okay, so 6 of them are now non-atomic minerals. Now what is the consequence of this? The names we will understand. The consequence first you understand. The consequence now is that atomic minerals up until now, could only be mined by public sector units. Okay? भारत सरकार की परियोजनाओं के अंदर ही वो उसका खनन हो सकता था. Which means that private organizations could not go ahead and mine this. Because again, these particular minerals are critical for national security was the rationale. Now this included minerals of say lithium, which up until now, hitherto, say 5 साल पहले, 10 साल पहले तक, they were okay, understood as atomic minerals. Now the definition is that lithium finds use in almost every product that we use, electronic product. Okay, it's a major part of like the whole electronic industry. So suddenly what happens now? The government realizes कि भाई साहब एक minute, we have categorized this as atomic mineral. We cannot have the private sector come and mine it. So how are we going to do it? Amend the bill. Now you have private sector companies that are to be given licenses to go ahead and mine these 6 kind of atomic minerals, non-atomic minerals now. Okay, this is the focus area. This is why the bill was passed. Now what is the point of it? Let's look at it. You are looking at auction as the method of allocating operating rights. Why? Private bodies are coming, no? So auction needs to be there. A fair and transparent mechanism of allotting should be there. You don't want scams happening. Okay? So auction is the method. Now the bill restricts the grant of exploration, production and composite licenses for atomic minerals. See, the 6 that are already left, the atomic minerals, they are only going to be mined by the public sector units. उसमें आपको entry नहीं मिलेगा. उसमें private sector is barred completely. The non-atomic minerals, go ahead. Have fun. Alright? So, license holders are now required to complete exploration activities within 3 years. A fixed timeline, in fact. Okay? Why has a fixed timeline been introduced, guys? Tell me. Because exploration is a capital-intensive process. And you may not get, say, the desired product or the desired mineral that you are looking for at, say, scalable quantity. मिल जाएगा, कम quantity में मिलेगा. You want to explore, you want to put in that much money at a place from where you know if I'm putting in 100 rupees, at least I'm assured 1000 rupees. Only then it makes sense, no? You spend 100 rupees going ahead, forming your whole thing, and you get product worth of 50 rupees only. Your company directors will murder you, right? Your shareholders will run after you like, what are you doing? So this is the whole point. Okay, they want to make it fixed timeline. 3 years, you go ahead explore. Okay. If you find the mineral, okay, we'll give you extension of license. If you are able to scale the product, another years of license. Okay. So fixed timeline is provided. And now you're looking at this, deep-seated and critical minerals. This is to do with the whole offshore areas mining process. Okay. Now what are deep-seated minerals? Gold, silver, copper, zinc, lead, platinum, all of these are deep-seated minerals. Why are they called deep-seated? Because they are difficult and expensive to explore. Okay. That even though they might be present in say quantities that you need, they are still very difficult. You know, it's not very easy to go ahead and mine them. They are called deep-seated minerals. Alright. Minerals are extremely critical for new age and traditional sectors, both. Okay. You are also looking at this mineral now going ahead and advancing India's mission to harvest this particular thing, which I think UPSC has asked in the past. The polymetallic nodules. Okay. Make a note of this. Don't make a note of this, in fact, I'll mention this. But understand what are polymetallic nodules. So you go 6,000 meters deep in the Indian Ocean. What should come to your mind when I say 6,000 meters deep in the Indian Ocean? The Indian Deep Ocean Mission. Okay. So when you go 6,000 meters deep in the Indian Ocean, you find these metallic nodules at the surface of the sea. Okay. They're extremely critical again in terms of say if you're able to harness them, if you're able to harvest them, you are going to use them again in all sorts of components in terms of critical technologies, new age technologies. And India has got the license from the International Seabed Authority. Okay. This is the organization, the International Seabed Authority. Okay. Obviously, within its economic zone, India has complete rights to go ahead and explore for this. India also has permission from the International Seabed Authority to go ahead and look for these polymetallic nodules deep inside the Indian Ocean. Okay. Which is why we are making our deep ocean mission. वो ऐसे ही थोड़ी ना शौक के लिए बना रहे हैं, कोई पर्पस के लिए बना रहे हैं. दिस इज द पर्पस. ठीक है. So deep seated minerals, you know now, okay? Gold, silver, copper, lead, zinc, platinum, all of them. Now this is again a line from the PIB. Okay, I rely extensively on PIB government website. It gives me the absolute critical information that I need. Okay, so let's look at the point of this. Our exclusive economic zone of 2 million square kilometers. What I want you to do is, this particular PIB article mentions these 5 areas. Okay. Please go ahead after the class, spend 5 minutes, look at the map. Excuse me. Excuse me. Okay. Look at the map and locate each of these. Okay. Each of these. Where is monazite sand? Where are the polymetallic nodules that are being found? Alright. It talks about, look at this, the polymetallic ferromanganese nodules in Andaman Sea and Lakshadweep Sea. This is where we are looking at within our exclusive economic zone. But we have also got the license to go ahead deep into the Indian Ocean to search for these polymetallic nodules. Okay, so just have a look at it. It shouldn't take you more than 5 minutes. Shouldn't take you more than 5 minutes. Just look at the map, have a mental picture. All right. In fact, I'll share a map of this in my Telegram channel also. I have prepared a map. I don't have this in my slide, but I'll share it in my Telegram channel. Have a look. All right. Next, now the salient features of this bill. Again, from the PIB article I have taken. Okay, the most complete information you will find. 2 types of operating rights. One is production lease, one is composite license. Okay, 2 types of licenses are to be given. Composite license, 2-stage operating right for undertaking exploration followed by production. Alright. Operating rights to be granted for PSUs in the minerals reserved by central government, the atomic minerals. Only government organizations will get into that. To the rest, private sector is absolutely welcome. Alright. Now, you are also looking at limitations on what a person can hold. For the first time, what you find is that a longitude by latitude definition has been provided, wherein say as a rich individual, I cannot have more than that particular area. What is the latitude by longitude area that I can hold at maximum? उसके अंदर मैं एक ही license hold कर सकता हूँ. That is it. It can't be the situation where there is mafia being created, that a single person had 10 licenses. No. You are going to have 1 license. The maximum area is 45 degree by 45 degree latitude longitude. Okay, have a look at this. Cannot acquire more than 45 minutes latitude by 45 minutes longitude. Alright, the maximum area that you can have. And just 1 individual can hold 1 license. Okay, no mafia wala giri here. Alright, you're also looking at a trust being created, fixed timelines being provided, all of being done to, why is it being done? To make sure that our critical minerals, which we have discussed, okay, and our rare earth elements and our deep-seated minerals, we are able to go ahead and harness them. Also extensive focus on polymetallic nodules. Alright, and to support them, what have we done? The atomic mineral list has been updated. Do you realize this now? This is the whole story. And to realize all of these together, what is happening? India's deep sea mission. See, this is a mind map for you. This is how mind maps are created, no? That you are able to look at the whole story in one particular line. This is a mind map here for you. Alright. So this is the focus of the offshore minerals amendment that has been introduced. 3 articles that we have taken a look at. Make sure that you follow each of them, okay? And answer these for me, by the way. Polymetallic nodules are rounded accretions composed of minerals such as manganese, nickel, cobalt, copper, iron hydroxide. They lie scattered at the Indian Ocean at depths of about 6,000 meters. International Seabed Authority regulates the exploration and exploitation of marine non-living resources. You will answer the correct statements for me. Alright. Let's look at the next one. Lithium, beryllium, titanium, niobium, tantalum, zirconium. Which of the above are now classified as non-atomic minerals? I have told you, that out of the 12 atomic minerals that existed, 6 are now classified as non-atomic, whereas 6 still remain as atomic. Okay, so you need to identify both sets. In this, you will answer which are the non-atomic minerals that has been amended by the House. Clear? All right. Okay, so that completes our 3 classes. If you understood the topics, if this was helpful for you, please do consider leaving me a like, guys. I would really appreciate that. Okay, any questions now? Okay, I'll take questions. Any questions, any doubts, anything that I can help you with, or else we'll call it a wrap and meet this evening at 9 p.m. Yes, I'm open for questions, feedback, anything, guys. Okay, make sure that you are aware of the differences at least. In terms of the last topic, the differences between critical minerals, rare earth elements, we have done that. Okay, if you want me to share a list, I'll do that too. Okay, deep-seated minerals, okay, atomic minerals. ये चारों के subsets काफी सारे overlap होंगे, but make sure that you know about them. Okay, it'll help you out because सवाल वहीं से फंसेंगे, guys. I can assure you. Okay, the bills are important, the acts are important not because of the bill or the act. Okay, the UPSC will hardly ask you about a bill or a act, probably a question offing sometimes. But then you will often find questions that will originate out of these policy measures, which is why as UPSC aspirants is बहुत important that you focus whenever the house is in session, guys. Okay, like for example, I'll give you a brief example, a difference between a finance bill and a money bill. Okay, if you just see how the house functions and how members are responding to, say, when a finance bill is in discussion or a money bill is in discussion, you will understand so much more than, say, a Lakshmikant book. Obviously, you need to first know the theory. I'm not denying that. But then make sure that you see it practically happen. Then it will remember. You'll remember it. Then you don't need to, recall it every time. Okay? Okay, guys. Thank you for your time and for your patience, for your consideration. Once again, do consider leaving me a like and sharing this with your friends, whoever will find this useful. And I'll see you this evening, 9 p.m. for lecture 3 of the Aranya series. Okay? Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful, productive day. God bless you.